sessions that we're running to bring to life in a little bit more detail some of the ICP priorities, with the view that we've got the ICP investment fund running at the same time. So just want to give you a bit more information to support you with your applications. So we've got a range of different colleagues here today that are going to talk you through those ICP priorities and hopefully give you the detail that you'll need to put in a really solid application. So just by way of a few introductions, I'll introduce myself first and then I'll ask the team to just introduce themselves as well. So I'm Angela Flaherty. I'm one of the transformation directors at the South West London ICB, and I look after the investment fund for my sins. And I also work on things like the Joint Forward Plan, which is the 5-year plan for the ENHS. So a lot of this work's very closely related. And I'm going to ask Una and Sam and Chloe and Larissa to introduce themselves as well. Una,
hi everybody. Yeah, my name's Una Dalton, Programme Director for Immunisations and Workforce for South West London. Nice to meet you.
Sam?
Hi, I'm Sam Mason. I'm the Health and Care Lead in the South London Partnership. The South London Partnership is a sub-regional partnership across the 6 local authorities in South West London.
Larissa?
Good morning, I'm Larissa Page, Programme Director for Workforce and OD within the South West London ICB, and I work across the system on a range of workforce related issues and programmes.
And Chloe?
Hi, I'm Chloe Hardcastle. I'm Deputy Director of Strategy and Transformation for the ICB, supporting Angela on the Joint Forward Plan development in this fund and also the ICP strategy.
I'm not sure that Rachel Flagg's with us just yet, but I know she's joining us shortly, and Rachel has been leading on the ICP strategy. So I thought we'd just introduce ourselves because colleagues will chime in as we go if you're raising any questions, just saves time a bit further on. OK, so today I'm going to give you a quick recap on the investment fund, just so that we're all clear about the 2 funding pots that we've got in place. Go through a bit more detail about the ICP strategic workforce priority, and then talk about what we're expecting from the applications for that workforce priority. And then we'll go into, depending on the volume of people we've got by then, we may go out into breakout sessions. And if we do that, there'll be a link to the room for that particular topic area in the chat that you can join. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the ideas that have been happening already at system level around some of the applications, just so that people can get on board if they'd like to. And then we'll go into some final questions. I would really ask if you could to try and keep your questions to the kind of questions and answers sessions. You can start putting them in the chat then, but it'd be good if we don't as we go. It becomes quite distracting for participants if we keep the chat going on the sidelines. It'd be good if we could keep it to that section, if that's OK. OK, so just moving on. The next slide. Is it just my system being slow?
I think so. It's not moving.
It's not moving. Chloe, could you move it on? Huh. Seems to be stuck. Bit strange. Chloe, are you able to move the slide on?
I don't know if Chloe's stuck, possibly.
Chloe might be stuck. Bear with me a second. I can.
I think she's dropped off. Oh no, she's there.
OK, I think I've taken control of the slides. No, I think they're frozen. Hang on. No. Bear with me. She's stuck. She's lost connection. OK, bear with me, everyone. I'm just going to swap those over. I've got the slides myself as well. Bear with me a second. We have backups for these technical hitches. Oh, she's back. Just
Sorry.
I did it at the same time.
Sorry, everyone. Lost connection there for a second.
Don't worry. I think I'm starting to share anyway.
Oh, OK.
Don't worry. There we go. As if by magic, it's back up again. OK, so for those of you that haven't been at some of the bigger events, we just thought we'd just do a really quick recap. So we have two parts to the investment fund this year. So when you hear us talking about the investment fund across South West London, it's got two bits to it. One is the ICP Partnerships Priorities Fund. Last year it was called the Innovation Fund, and I know a number of you bid for and were successful in some of those applications. And that's got a budget of 5 million allocated to it across the 2 financial years. So that's the remaining quarter of this financial year and the whole of the following financial year. The Health and Equalities Fund has 4.3 million for this financial year, and we're expecting a similar amount for next year. And the Health and Equalities Fund is NHS England monies that have been awarded to the ICBs to tackle health inequalities within that area. And the majority of that money goes down to borough level, or to place level as we call it in the NHS. 75% of that money this year is going to be for funding the continuation of existing schemes. There'll be decisions made on which schemes will progress into a following year, and then 25% to support new schemes. So if you're keen to put an application in for the Health and Equalities Fund, you really need to make contact with NHS colleagues at place, so that's borough level, as they'll be corralling the efforts to ensure there's no duplication at place. If you're interested in that one, drop us a line at the investment fund and we can put you in contact with the people that you need to. Okay, let's move on to, oh, it's me, I'm driving the slides. There you go, that's confusing for myself. So a little bit about the strategic priorities. So over the course of the year, we've been developing our ICP strategies, our Integrated Care Partnership strategy, starting with a large event that happened in the summer, where we brought stakeholders together from across South West London to really think through what we needed to focus on as a system. Where could we harness all of our collective efforts to make the most progress on some of our hardest hitting issues? And we came up with 6 priority areas of children, young people, health inequalities, prevention, older people, workforce, and positive mental health and well-being. Now, those priority areas have been worked up into a lot more detail. So you'll see within the strategy that they have got some really detailed focus descriptions for each of them. And they also drop down into action level. So for those 6, it's pretty clearly defined what we need to focus our efforts on for the first 5 years. So for the next 5 years of our strategy, and for workforce, they've gone even further, and the team will take you through it, what they think they need to focus on for the first year. So that's why you'll see in the application form that we're asking you to select not just a strategic priority, but also the focus area and the actions that your ideas support. So we're looking for applications that support that work. In addition to the 6 priority areas, we've also got 3 cross-cutting themes. Now, these broadly cut across most of the things that we do. They don't neatly fit, but they do cut across them. So equality, diversity and inclusion, elevating patient, carers and community voices, and championing the green agenda. Now, these areas are less developed at this stage. We're really hoping that through the Priorities Fund, we'll get some ideas coming through that can really jettison that work, but also that we start to build a bit of a community around that work as well. We don't really have the strength in numbers across cross-cutting themes yet that we have in the strategic priorities. That's just a little bit about the strategy. It's now live. It was launched at the end of last week, and the information is on the ICS website. So the money. So for the ICP Priorities Fund, as we said before, we've got about 5 million for that. There's a slight piece you'll see from the papers that's been taken out to support the overarching process, because it's quite labour intensive, and we've got an online system to support. So from that, we've still got 3.8 million allocated to the overarching and kind of the big priority area for the ICP, which is workforce, and hence why we put the session on today to really explain what we mean by the workforce priority, so that you can put in some strong applications. Across the other 4 priorities, we've got 800,000 to distribute across those 4 areas. And then for the 3 cross-cutting themes, we've got a nominal allocation of 150,000, and we'll see how we go with applications for those. You'll see from the information on the website as well that we've put in a minimum and a maximum, so a collar and a cap for bids. This is a guide, and the reason that we've put this in place is that we had a lot of feedback last time that people didn't know what the maximum level they could apply for, and whether or not we'd accept smaller bids as well. So hopefully that will help you when you're forming your bids. If you've got something that is wildly over some of those numbers, and you think it's an absolutely brilliant idea and it fully aligns well to those priority areas, just drop us a line in the investment fund. We're happy to have a conversation about it to see whether or not we'll accept it outside of the confines of those parameters, but try and keep within it where you can. Okay, so what are we looking for the ICP Priorities Fund applications? So as I've said before, really strong alignment to those ICP priority areas, needs to address the focus area and the actions articulated in the strategy. The funding, there's a template. I would suggest if you're thinking about putting an application in, look at that finance template as soon as possible so that you can start to build the information that you need for the submission. It sets out really clearly what we expect from you for the first quarter and then for the following quarters of the following year. So it's a little mini sort of financial plan that you need to put in place, clearly articulating both pay and non-pay. As you would expect, this is public money, so we do need to really demonstrate that we've understood the costings that people have put forward in their applications. The impact, something we didn't get quite right in the last Innovation Fund. We need people to really clearly articulate why they think this is a good idea. So what's your evidence for it? Why do you think it's a great idea? Who's been involved in it? Have you got any source reference materials that you can reference in the application? And being really, really clear how you're going to measure the impact that you're stating. So what are the measures that you're going to use? How are you going to track it? How are you going to get organised in order to establish a baseline and know what you're delivering over time? It's not an exact science sometimes with some of these schemes, but we do need people to clearly demonstrate that they've thought about it and how they're going to measure it going forward. The application form also asks you to articulate your delivery plan. So just by quarters, broad headlines that you've thought through the mobilisation of the scheme, thinking what's that going to happen in the last quarter of this year? What are the things that you're going to do? Is that recruitment? Is that engagement? What is it? So it does take into account the fact that people do need time to prepare and mobilise before you hit the ground running. So just really be clear in those applications about the activities you're going to be undertaking. And we do like to see that people have understood all the preparation activities, because that's often what we see delaying schemes, is that people go back and say, actually, we didn't think we needed to do all of those things first. That's what we're looking for in the applications. And then just talking about the timeline, just to conclude, we opened the schemes on the 2nd, which was last Monday, and we're going to be closing on the 10th of November. That's 6 working weeks in that period. And they're the same dates for both the ICP Priorities Fund and also for the Health and Equalities new schemes. After they close, they go through a slightly different process from each other. The shortlisting for the Health and Equalities Fund is done at place, and then it goes through sort of a ratifying committee and awarding panel in early December. But for the ICP Priorities Fund, it's the subject matter experts for those priority areas that will be doing the shortlisting. Obviously, I anticipate there'll be some conflict of interest. We're managing that through with additional shortlisters. So, for example, if Una's putting in a bid, she won't be shortlisting. So we're really clear on the conflicts of interest there. And in those pairs, we won't just have NHS colleagues, we'll also have colleagues from the local authority. So Sam, for example, will be getting involved in some of the shortlisting, not just for workforce, but some of the other areas too. And then all of the information, particularly for those that we decide that we want to proceed to panel or we want to further progress, our internal finance team will be reviewing the full financial information to make sure that we're in line with our financial governance. It might feel like it's a very strong process for this year. That's because we want to try and avoid having to go back out multiple times for further information. We're hoping that through a more robust application form, that hopefully we can just get all of that information in once and avoid the need to come back out and ask multiple questions. So just finally, a few little pieces before we move into the priority. There's some additional support available across the applications. And I think I've got my colleague Sarah Maloko, who I think has just joined, I think I just saw on the chat, who's here to talk a little bit about the offer from the Voluntary Community and Social Enterprise Alliance. Sarah, are you here?
Yes, I'm
you
here.
are. Yes, I thought I saw you join.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is, I am the director of the Voluntary Community and Social Enterprise Alliance. So the Alliance brings together the voluntary sector and community organisations across the 6 places. What we want to do is obviously to get the voluntary sector more embedded into the ICS strategically and in delivery terms. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. What we would like to see is applications that involve the voluntary sector. You might know that we've got approximately 5,000 voluntary sector and community groups, and they bring a lot of expertise in terms of early intervention, flexibility, they're really, really kind of very close, and they build that trust already with the communities you want to work with. And we've got a range of them, starting from the small organization to the medium size to the larger branches of Home Start, for example. So what I was going to suggest is, if you've got a project idea, you do not know who to involve within the voluntary sector, please contact me. My email address and telephone number is on the slide. We would like, you know, you to kind of consider the different elements of the workforce development priority and look at the actions and think, okay, how can I reach out to the community? How can I get closer to the community? Can the voluntary sector partner provide this aspect of the delivery? So you could maybe be looking at the employment and young people action and want to work with young people organizations across the 6 boroughs, or you might want to maybe reconsider a role and maybe make a host by a voluntary sector organization, or maybe commission an element of a difficult to recruit role through the sector. So, you know, we're here to talk. We are open to all your ideas. Please contact me and we'll take it from there.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. So Sarah's been involved very closely with myself and Catherine Heffernan, who's been setting up the Health Inequalities Fund to ensure that when we're sort of designing these sessions and then we've been designing the application process, that we've been taking the VCSE into account in the design of those. Sarah, are you okay to cover Alyssa's slide for her? Is that still okay? You did a beautiful job the other day. Here we go. I've just popped it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is the equivalent of me for health watches as well. As you know, we've got one health watch in each of the 6 places, and health watches are really what they are about is kind of collecting that patient's voice and the resident's voice and really bringing it together. They do a lot of research as well on different areas. So what Alyssa wanted to let you know is, first of all, is extremely important, and there are questions in the application that really focus on this. It's extremely important that you include people and communities you are working with in shaping your project, and you show how you've done that, and also delivering your project as well, and that you show in the application how they keep being involved during the duration of the project. So you have to have those conversations. You need to amplify the voices of the community you want to work with. They also suggest that obviously you're guided by incited intelligence, and there is a lot of data, both quantitative data, qualitative data out there that you can use. You can look at there are some links to the right side of the slide, and if you scan those, you will get community insight reports that health watchers have done across South West London, and some insights from the South West London engagement done so far by the engagement team within the ICS. They've done some, you know, amazing work engaging the population already. So have a look at the data and see whether it can, you know, kind of give strength to your application. And yes, that's it in a nutshell. It's all about adopting those principles of co-production and making sure that you work in a way that involves the people you're going to serve.
Thank you, Sarah. That's really
just for my camera because it's not working. I don't know why.
Don't worry. Thanks very much for that. I mean, there's an enormous amount of collateral behind those QR links, so I would it might always be as relevant to some of the applications you put in, but it's definitely worth a look if you get a quiet moment anyway, just to see the information that's there. If you're putting in other bids for other types of things, particularly at place level, the information's really valuable. So I'm just going to move us through, because I think now I am handing over to my lovely colleagues, Sam, who's going to talk you through a bit more detail of the workforce priority itself. Sam, over to you.
Thank you, Angela. Will you move the slides for me?
I will. I shall do that.
Thank you very much. I'll let you know when I need them to move on. So just to give an overview of why the focus on workforce and how we developed the focus and the action. So as we're all aware, the workforce is the core of the health and care system in South West London. All of our services, NHS, social care, are people-based services, and the majority of our budget is spent on the workforce in the form of salaries, etc. It's a considerably sized sector in South West London, with approximately 80,000 people working in health and care in South West London, which makes it the third largest employment sector in South West London. So a major contributor to the economy in our region as well. And again, I suspect we're all, fairly familiar with the challenges around the health and care workforce. So the high levels of vacancies and turnover, particularly in some roles, critical shortages in many roles, difficulties in attracting new talent and keeping that talent in our sector, but also in South West London. Also the need to develop new skills and new ways of working in response to new technology, new knowledge, new methods, etc. The challenges around workforce well-being, in particular high levels of stress, burnout, discrimination and inequality, and in some parts of the sector, challenging working conditions more generally. So, again, the workforce challenge in health and social care. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit. Can somebody go on mute? I'm not sure who that is. Thank you. There's just a bit. Still a bit of background noise, but I'll carry on. So again, it's this challenge isn't just a South West London challenge. We know it's a national challenge, but of course within South West London, in our different organisations, we have our own nuances and particularities of the challenge here. And there is there's a great deal of national policy attention on both the health and social care workforce. So fairly early on in developing the strategy, so probably about this time last year, I think it was fairly clear that workforce was probably a very strong candidate to be a priority in the strategy. There's a great deal of work already going on across our patch in all the different organisations on addressing some of these workforce challenges, and it was felt that we could have a bigger impact quicker by really drawing some of that together at a system level, and the partnership really championing the addressing of the workforce challenges and working together to do that. So sorry, I'm just going to move on. So I'm just moving my slides. Thank you. So that in terms of developing the priority, I think, as I say, there was a discussion document, the strategy, a discussion document was developed before Christmas and published January last year. And at that point, it was proposed that workforce was a key priority within the strategy, and also that it should be the focus for the year one. And in response to that discussion document, there was good support and general support for that. And as a result of that, further discussions that went to the ICP Partnership Board in April proposed, as I've said, workforce as a priority and a year one priority, and in particular focused around 4 areas of focus. So targeting difficult to recruit roles, making South West London a great place to work, supporting local people into employment, and designing our future workforce. And those were agreed by the ICP board in April and were taken to the big event in May that I think many of you may have been involved with and which Angela has already referred to. And at that event, a group of, I would say, probably 30 to 40 people developed a series of actions to sit under those 4 areas of focus. And those actions were then taken away, refined, and they were the set of actions that ended up in the final version of the strategy that was agreed in July and recently published. I think it's important to say that those actions, those final actions, were selected on the basis of they were big priorities. They addressed some of the major challenges, but also they were deliverable within the timeframes we're talking about, and also they were areas where it was felt that working together in partnership at system level could add value to the range of activity which was already taking place. So that was the criteria that was used to get to this set of priorities. So you can see on this slide now you've got the 4 areas of focus with a number of actions under each. I think it ends up 13 different actions, and we also agreed to focus on 4 particular areas in year 1 as year 1 priorities. So again, they are mainly they sit under the targeted difficult to recruit roles. So focusing on 3 difficult to recruit roles and developing a plan to tackle those, and also reducing the use of agency staff and reducing agency spend, again targeted on 3 key roles. We also know that that there are many people in our local communities who may not be working, who want to work, or who want to work in the health and care sector and progress their careers in the health and care sector. So there is a strong focus on supporting our local people to get jobs and develop their careers in the health and care sector in South West London. And again, we decided in year 1 to focus on that priority, and in particular through increasing apprenticeships and work experience placements, and also a focus on young people. So those are the 4 year 1 priorities. I'm just going to go through each of these priorities in a bit more detail now, just so you can see the full ambition for each of these roles, each of these areas of focus and the actions. So again, you can read these on the screen, but just briefly. So targeting difficult to recruit roles, very much about reducing vacancies, but also improving retention. And I have already these 2 actions under this priority are also year 1 actions that we said we would focus on. And again, tried to be specific. So suggesting a relatively small number of roles and areas to focus on initially, so that we can deliver these actions within year 1. So can we move on to the next one? Thank you. So again, making South West London a great place to work, to improve retention, to keep our existing workforce, attract new people, and also support the health and well-being of our workforce. So although these aren't immediate year 1 priorities, there are also key priorities which we'll be starting to focus on and develop action plans over the course of this year and next year for working towards these. So a focus on the Mayor of London's Good Work Standards, which includes pay and conditions, as well as training, and a commitment to move organisations to paying at least the London living wage. We'll also review the South West London health and wellbeing offer, so to support our workforce. We'll look at options for supporting easier movement of staff between all health and care organisations in South West London, and also look at establishing an anti-racism framework across our partnership, and that does link to the health inequalities priority as well. So move on to the next one, please. So again, we've covered a little bit of this because this is an area of the year one priority, but supporting local people into employment to reduce health inequalities, support cost of living, and better reflect the communities we serve. So, you know, as I've already noticed, a focus on increasing the availability and take-up of apprenticeships, a focus on improved and more numerous work experience placements, then a focus on young people, and particularly working with our schools, universities, colleges to support, to promote careers and jobs in health and care amongst that group, and support with processes of getting into the career. And then we already have a health academy hub and a social care academy hub in South West London, funded by the GLA, and at the moment they are funded for I think to the end of March next year, but the ambition is to develop and integrate those academies so that they are there for the long term, and they can support the sector, support health and care workforce in an integrated way, in particular, focusing on campaigns and promotion of jobs and care in jobs and careers in health and social care, but also supporting local people with access to training, job applications, etc. Next slide, please.
I think that's the end of those three detailed ones. I didn't know if you wanted to say a little bit more about the designing our future workforce one.
Yeah, sorry, there should be another one on the future workforce. Was that not included? Sorry, did that get dropped off? But again, so the fourth area of focus is around designing our future workforce, and this, certainly in the earlier period of the strategy, this is very much about looking as to what we'll need in the future, and looking at new skills, new capabilities, and developing plans for how we're going to move towards those. So, thank you. So that's it from me. Thank you.
So I think we're now going to, so I think what we should do first of all is just pause for some questions, and then Una's going to probably do a bit of a double act with me around what we're kind of expecting from the bids and the types of things we're after. But we could just pause there for some questions. I know you've all been very much keeping to my request of not putting things in the chat, so I'm really grateful for that, because hopefully we can keep the questions to the main session. So has anyone got anything they'd like to ask so far?
Angela?
Mark?
Hiya, thanks. I'm sorry I didn't listen to your strict instructions. I failed there. I do apologise. Is it possible, really interested in the workforce bit, current workforce, future workforce, and developing those skills, is it possible that they could be shared, Brian, those slides?
Oh yes, certainly. All of it will be put onto the ICS website, so probably where you found the link to the meeting, we'll pop them up there, plus the recording for today. So yes, we'll share those.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
I think we've got Andrea next.
Thank you, really helpful. Obviously you've talked about the year one priorities. Can we read from that priority would be given to bids that focus on those year one priorities, or should we be just as interested in the full range of actions that you've talked about today?
You can be interested in the full range of actions. So we also realise that they're the things that we're really concentrating our efforts on year one, But in order to hit some of those things in later years, there'll be preparatory work, particularly if those bids are thinking about something that's a bit of a proof of concept, something you want to test. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're not confining it to that.
May I be really cheeky and ask one quick more?
Yes, of course you can.
The 3 hardest to recruit to roles, have you defined those?
I'll hand that to Una. In fact, we had 2 questions on that in the chat as you were asking it. So Una and Sam, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to. No is the answer. The way in which we're going to do that is to, over the course of the next week or so, get a small task and finish group together to try and work that one out. So we're not necessarily looking at the hardest to recruit, but just those that are hard to recruit in terms of across the system. Yeah.
That's great. Got a question from Heidi.
Hi, this is the first presentation I've attended on this today, so
Okay.
I am coming into this quite new. And when Sarah was talking about the 6 boroughs across southwest London and the place base, is this something we need to be applying for in partnership with other boroughs, or can we just apply from our borough, because we're a local Merton charity? So I'm just interested in it, because obviously we've got to build a partnership and get all that done by the 10th of November. That's
Yeah, so
that's what I'm not quite clear about. I'm guessing that will come out in the next section, but
well, it's a really key part of the Priorities Fund. So these are system level bids. So we're really after people doing things at scale, and by scale we mean across multiple boroughs. And that's something that we're really encouraging our NHS colleagues at Place to facilitate. So if you've got an idea and you've been discussing it within your sort of local geography with the NHS Place team, that means borough team, they will hopefully be looking to buddy up with some of the other boroughs too, to push that idea on. So because it's the ICP strategic priority, it is about scale. The Health and Equalities Fund is very much place focused, so that's a separate fund. If you've not been involved with that so far, there's still time to get involved for some of those new health and equality schemes.
Heidi, sorry, Sarah interrupting. If you want to drop me an email, then maybe we can have a separate conversation. You can give me your idea, and maybe we can, take
that would be great.
there.
Yes, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
And I'm Merton and Wandsworth ICB, so if you want to also copy me in, and I can help and link you up in terms of head of integrated care and transformation, so we can look together.
Okay, that would be great. How would I get your email, Sandy?
It should be on this invite list, but I can sandy.keane@southwestlondon.nhs.uk.
At southwestlondon.nhs.uk. Okay, thank you.
And if any of you lose your contacts from today, just drop me a line, and we'll try and hook you back up on the investment fund email address. And you know what, that was wonderful. That's exactly what we want to try to get from these sessions, is people making those connections and collaborating a bit further. That's why we've run them. So don't be shy to reach out to each other. That's one. We're going to go into some breakout sessions, hopefully in a moment, if the technology allows me to do it. But I think there was one more hand up, but it's gone down on my screen. Let me just have a look. Oh no, it's still up. Oh no, it's gone down. Is there someone that wanted to ask a question that keeps handing up?
Sorry, that's me, Dushka from
Dushka, there
Hello.
we go. Hello,
Hi.
Dushka.
Hi.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on there.
No, I couldn't. It kept unclicking. Sorry, my apologies.
Right.
So we're based in Richmond, but we also support clients in Hounslow and Kingston. And we do a couple of different things, but primarily we support people with pregnancy loss and unplanned pregnancy, so giving them a space to do that. And I've just seen Chloe's also posted that there is a strategy meeting tomorrow online for mental well-being. So is it best that we just join that and find out some information? I suppose I'm asking, who do we best who do we put forward our bid to, or how do we make a connection? How do we put ourselves forward?
Okay.
Again, like Heidi, it's my first time into this group, so
okay.
Thank you for your patience.
No, that's absolutely fine. So probably what I'd recommend, so you cover Kingston and Richmond as part of your, was
and
that
Hounslow.
right?
And Hounslow, yes.
Yeah, Hounslow's not in our Southwest London gang, but the other two are. So I'm going to connect you with, I think, the place lead, the NHS lead for your area first, I think is the most useful thing to do. And that's a lady called Vicky Harvey Piper. So if you want to drop an email to the South West London Investment Fund email address, you'll find it on the website. And I will reply to it with her email address. I'm not going to put it directly in the chat, but if you email me there, I'll give you her details, and that's who you should make contact with first. By all means, attend.
Sorry, the email address is on the website.
It is actually. Chloe, could you stick it in the chat? Is that all right?
Oh, thank you, Chloe. Thank
sorry,
you.
I don't know why I didn't think about that just then. And that'd be much easier to go to the website. Yeah, so make contact with your place first, because also then they can think about joining up with others if it's an idea that they, you know, once you've discussed it, it's got legs and it aligns with the bids. The session running tomorrow is on the mental health priority, so by all means attend if you want to find out some more information. And also you might find other organisations that are working in a similar space to you as well that you could join up with. There's not just about joining out with the geography, it's also joining out with other organisations too.
Yes, okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela.
That's okay. Heidi, is that another question or is that a legacy hand? Legacy hand, okay.
No, sorry, I'll just take that down. There we go.
That's all right. Ione, hello.
Hi. Hi, Angela. So recently we just concluded, I've been working 1 day a week with a geriatrician from Croydon, creating a framework for frailty in Southwest London, working with places. We recently finished the draft of a pathway. So that's coming to the end, all the money that we got. My question is, implementation of this pathway, and specifically I'm looking at the prevention of frailty hub, part of this pathway, if that's something that we could apply for. Having said that, I haven't talked to Busayo yet, and I will be talking to him you know, in the next hour or so, to the frailty team that I have been working with. So if it's something that you know, this innovation, this investment fund, something that we could consider.
Yeah, I'd go and speak to Busayo. That's exactly the right course of action. So for those who don't know who Busayo is, Busayo is one of the ICB directors that leads on sort of community and older people. So there's an older people's funding stream only, as well as workforce. And I would have a chat with him, because what we're looking for is not schemes that we've funded already, unless they're going up to scale. So yeah, unless they're going to cover a whole area and it's something a little bit different to last time. So do get in contact with Busayo, he's the right person. And also the thing that we found with a number of ideas that we're trying to channel while we're getting subject matter experts involved is that we had a lot of duplication last time in the applications between boroughs. So we want to try and remove the duplication, actually just get people to join up. So yeah, go and talk to him, Ione. I think that's the right thing to do.
Okay,
nice to see you again.
Thank you.
No further hands. Okay, so I think some of those covered off probably what Una and I are going to talk a little bit about, but that's the kind of things that we'd be looking for in the applications. Would you like to go first, Una? Or would you like me to start off?
I'm happy to. Yep. Should I kick off then?
Yes, please.
All right then. Hello again, everybody. I recognise one or two faces from years ago, so lovely to see you. In terms of what we're looking for these bids, definitely scale, as Angela has already said. And by that, we mean ideally more than one partner, ideally across sectors, whether that be health, social care, the voluntary sector, primary care, ideally bringing partners together. As has already been said, ideally across boroughs, if you possibly can. And again, we can try and help to do that if need be. We had a question there about whether the focus is just on year one priorities or the whole, and it's definitely on the whole of the workforce agenda. But ideally, if we could push on year one, that would be fantastic. So yeah, that's the gambit we're looking for. Definitely scale is the ask here if we can. But if you get stuck or need help, you just need to let us know, and we'll try and join you up with others where we possibly can. Angela, anything else to add?
I think just to sort of make a bit of a plea, what we know from some of the preparatory conversations that have gone on in the background around the this particular priority, that we're likely to get some sort of big statutory sector bids coming in. My plea is to my colleagues in the NHS and local authorities that when you're designing your bids, that you think creatively about who your delivery partners could be in your bids. So could that be someone from the voluntary sector or from another organisation, some of the traditional partners you haven't thought through before. And that's partly what we'll get into the breakout sessions, but it's really thinking differently about who can deliver it. So this is it's the integrated care partnership, very much thinking about the partnership. It's not just the partnership, the statutory sector, it's the partnership with all the other agencies that are involved too, who include the voluntary sector. So just a bit of a plea from me. It'd be good to see some of those more varied applications coming in. Also, don't be frightened of putting in the big bids. There's a big cap on this one at about 450,000. So don't shy away from it. So really think through, actually, are you putting in enough resource? And also in that bid, as I think I said it before, but I'll say it again, really think through really truly what you need to mobilise and how accurate those timescales are for mobilisation. We saw a lot of things that didn't mobilise until the last month last time. And then the final thing to just say is around the finances. And we said this last year for the Innovation Fund, but I'll say it again because I think my colleagues in finance won't talk to me again if I don't say it. Delivery and money need to link up. So the money we give you in year is for delivery in year. It's not money this year for delivery next year. The money and the delivery have to line up together. That's something we have to do from our financial governance perspective. That applies to all statutory sector organisations. We can't roll the money over and we can't ask you to do that either. So just be really clear in your application about what the money's for in each month or each quarter of both delivery and the costs. I'm just going to pause there, and I've got some questions, I think, in response to that, which is fantastic. So Sarah, over to you, and then it's Melanie.
Hi, I just wanted to reinforce what you just said. You stole my line about.
Oh, sorry.
No, absolutely not. Thank you for saying it. Absolutely involved in the voluntary sector. We've got some amazing voluntary sector organisations across the board working around mental health, family support, older people and frail people. So please do contact me. And the second was a question to Una, just for me to be clear on the first year priorities. They are the ones in red in the slide. Yeah,
they are there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all. Thank you.
Melanie.
Thank you. I'm here from the South West London Care Home team. And do we have any idea what the reporting might be like so that we can factor that into our timescales and also into the costs? Thank you.
Ooh, Melanie, that's a tricky one. We haven't quite got there yet. It will vary slightly, is my thought so far on the value of the scheme, and slightly between the ICP strategic priorities as well. We have got a template in mind. So if you look at the application form, you'll get a bit of a clue from the questions, but also from the mobilisation and finance template. So we'll be looking for people to update on how they're mobilising, how they're spending, but also against the measures that they start to articulate. We're hoping that within time, we'll be able to hook onto the outcomes framework that will be developed across the ICP. So I mean, Rachel and Una, Rachel, you might want to say a bit more about the outcomes framework, but it's not there yet. Actually, Rachel, would you mind saying a little bit about the outcomes framework for the ICP strategy? I think that might help people.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Flagg. I'm Director Care Partnership Development for the ICB in South West London. So yeah, we've been thinking about for our strategy action plans, what the outcomes should look like. So we need to be clear about the outputs we're trying to achieve, but also the outcomes for our organisations and our populations. And as the different work streams are working up their delivery plans, we're also asking them to think about those outcomes. So I think that's sort of in the process of being defined. So it's at the moment it's a work in progress. But I think the important thing is that as you're thinking up your schemes, you're able to articulate, what is the measurable impact that you'd be hoping to make with that scheme.
That's great. Thank you, Rachel. So we'll tie those two things up together, hopefully, once they've been defined for each of the priority areas. Any final questions before we move on? Okay. So what we're planning to do. Oh, yes, we do. Hang on. Sorry. Jen Goddard.
Sorry,
Jen.
I think it was just I put it in the chat, and I think Rachel's explained it better about delivery time points and when funding actually needs to be spent by. Could someone just clarify that?
Okay, so yeah, so the delivery timescale. So we're hoping to award the money early in the new year, so Christmas, early in the new year. So you'll have the quarter of this financial year. So your cost profile for your award needs to cover the period from January, so the last financial quarter, January to the end of March, and the whole of the following financial year. So financial year being 1st of April to the end of March 2025. The template does set it out, so there's a little margin for misinterpreting it on the template. It's fairly straightforward, and I'll just encourage people to download that template sooner rather than later. So delivery, the money, you can't carry the money over now into the following year.
Anything we put into year one has to be spent by March.
Spent in year one, yeah.
And yeah, okay.
So yeah, it should, and the spreadsheet's got it's pre-populated with calculations, so it will start to sum up for you what you're allocating to year one and for year two. And much as I was saying, year one, it's only a quarter. It's not very long. Mark.
Yeah, sorry, just on the roles, the 3 roles, which I know Una said you guys are going to be looking at to see what those 3 are. Are we sort of, because that's still a work in progress, I'm assuming that we're unlikely to find out what those 3 roles are before the application process finishes, or is the aim to sort of let people know what those are?
Would you like to
Is it difficult to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's not difficult to say in that we genuinely haven't made the decision. So we will be setting up a task and finish group. So if anybody's interested in joining that group and that conversation, you're very welcome to do so. But equally, as soon as we try and land on something, equally happy to share with everybody. I'm just conscious the timing might not work in terms of developing your own bids. So I'd probably encourage you to come along and be part of the debate. I don't want to take a month to land on 3 roles. So yeah, come along and be part of the conversation is what I would say. Yeah, that'd
be great. And then would that be circulated around for people to know how to join that group?
Yes, definitely. I don't know, Super. Angela, whether we're going to have a centralized way of doing that, but definitely, if in doubt, my email is on this circulation, so just let me know. Yeah,
great, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, my brain's veering towards having a sort of a dedicated, almost little web page bit of the of the website, just investment fund, and then a bit more information on workforce, because actually it's our biggest area. It's one we're getting the most questions around.
Yeah.
So leave that with me. We'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Sam.
Sorry, I was just going to clarify that when we talk about the year 1 priorities, they actually do span year 1 and year 2. So they're the priorities through to the end of March 2025. So do coincide with this funding period. Obviously, we'd only be left with 1 quarter for this financial year. So they do run through to the end of March 25.
Okay. I can. Is there another one? It's not. I've got funny. Oh, Rachel Tilford.
I'm Rachel Tilford. I work in the public health team, and I'm just picking up Mark's point really again about.
Can't hear you very well, Rachel.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's better. Yes, that's it.
Something wrong with my speaker. Sorry. Just picking up again on Mark's point about the 3 roles. I just feel if we're wanting to put a bid around those 3 roles, we would need to know that sooner rather than later. And I'm just feeling that it's a bit of a missing piece for me of the puzzle at the minute. I know we'll have this group working on it, but I know you're saying that the big statutory organisations might want to put bids in, but it might be around those 3 most hard to recruit roles. So I'm not quite too sure whether. I think it sort of limits what we can do if we don't know what those roles are, if you're wanting work around those 3 hard to recruit roles. Anyway, it's just a thought.
I think, Sam, are you coming to respond to that?
I was going to, but Una can if she wants. And, and I think, I think all I was going to say is there will be the focus is on difficult to recruit roles more generally.
Okay.
You know, obviously there will be a specific focus on 3 roles where we believe we can have the most impact over the next 18 months or so, but it might be worth just looking at the broader area of focus.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Sam.
So I think I responded to this one in one of the queries that we'd had, and I think in a couple, well, I feel like I responded to this one quite a few times because we haven't defined them yet. In your application, because we're asking you to evidence why you're suggesting the scheme you're making, if you've got the evidence that this is one of those difficult to recruit roles, then it will, of course, it will be considered as part of the application. And everyone, you know, it's going to be quite a difficult process to define those 3 key roles for the broader system. So no, go for it. Don't hold back. If you think it's a difficult to recruit role and you can say why, put the application in. That's
really
what we
helpful.
encourage you to do. Okay, I can't see any more hands, so my laptop is behaving a little bit strangely. We have got, because we didn't know how many people were coming today, we have decided to set up the breakout rooms in a slightly different fashion. So you'll have seen in the chat that I have put a link into 4 meetings for us to join, and they align to the 4 focus areas. So you should be able to see in there, hopefully, if the magic of Teams has worked well, there's a breakout session link to designing our future workforce. There's a link in there to making South West London a great place to work, supporting local people into employment, and targeting our difficult to recruit health and care roles. So if you click here to join the meeting link, it should take you through to the room. And one of each of our team will be there to lead the session. So I think I've got Larissa on making LAS a great place to work. Sam, which one did you say you were doing?
Supporting local people into employment.
Supporting local employment. I'm doing designing future workforce, and Una, that leaves you with
Difficult to recruit.
Difficult to recruit roles. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Oh, people are already joining. That's very exciting. Jen, you've got a question.
I can't see a link to the developing the future workforce.
It was, I think it was the first one I posted, so it's a bit further up the chat.
Oh, okay, brilliant, thanks.
Sorry, it's just then people started asking questions. I wasn't quick enough to start copying and pasting them all in one go. So we're going to go into those sessions for 30 minutes. And then you'll just need to rejoin this meeting afterwards. So there's a little bit of discipline that we require, but I'll be looking to my colleagues Una, Larissa and Sam to do that and to keep to time. So back into this room at 10:30. Okay, thank you all so much. Right, let's get going. Okay, so the next item that we were going to cover in our conversation was around some of the thoughts that sort of Una and Sam had been having, and some of the conversations around some of the system level bids that that are being considered at the moment. So it's just an opportunity for Una to share some of that information and talk about how you might be able to participate in it. So Una, over to you to just sort of open that conversation up.
Sure. Okay, well, we've just talked about it a little bit in the group that we've just been in, but certainly a part of the system is starting to think about apprenticeships. So certainly the trusts across Southwest London have got together to think, how can we, one, make better use of the apprenticeship levy that they get each year, but 2, how can we potentially coordinate apprenticeships across the whole system better? Now that conversation started just with the NHS. It now includes local authority colleagues, which is good, but I suppose my thought is, how big could you go with something like that across the whole system? Because at the moment, as I've just said in the other group, if you want to look for an apprenticeship, whether you're a young person starting out, whether you're a worker who's in a job, it is very complicated as a system to find where you need to go. Numerous websites. is there something that we could do as the whole Southwest London system to make that easier to navigate, and potentially to coordinate that whole process a little differently? Now, that's a mammoth job. If you look at the millions of pounds that comes into our system for apprenticeships each year, but that's the debate that we're starting. So I would say if anybody is interested in getting involved in that debate, let me know and we will find a way to get people around the table. Another bid that I've just mentioned, that I haven't mentioned to you, Angela, but we've just mentioned in the last little conversation as well, is we're currently speaking, again, starting with the NHS, starting with the Trust, on the development of a Southwest London bank of staff. So at the moment, each hospital has like an internal bank, and they're all kind of arranged slightly differently. So they try and recruit. If they can't recruit, they go to their internal bank. If they can't go there, they go to agencies. And what we're suggesting, and we've just applied for and been successful for, to become a vanguard or a pilot, to create a Southwest London collaborative bank, so that before a hospital goes to an agency, they will first of all come to this Southwest London entity, and hopefully we will have staff on that they would be able to utilise before they need to pay high cost agency fees. Now, one of the good things about this is if we have a Southwest London bank, it means that somebody doesn't need to join 6 different banks to get some work. They would only have to join one. But again, I'm thinking how big, how far could we go with that concept? We have secured some funding to write a business case by the end of December. So we will need to do this at pace if we were going to consider a bigger than just our trusts, and potentially something that's more system-wide. But discussions are starting. So again, if anybody's interested in getting involved in that, I'd be keen to hear from you.
So Una, the 2 sort of big ticket items that are in development, one, the big one around apprenticeships, and the second one around kind of bank and sort of consolidating bank. And for those, because people went into multiple different rooms for the 4, do you want to just say a little bit more about how you're developing that apprenticeships one, sort of what your next step is, because I know that there's going to be some further work, and then how people can keep informed about if they want to come in as a delivery partner?
Yeah, so we have a session in the diary for, I think it's next week, to continue with there's a small group of people across the NHS and local authorities that have got together already to start to talk about this. And so we've got another session, 3 hours in the diary next week. I'm not sure we'd be able to open that up to absolutely everybody. If there were people keen, and if we can get a few more in, then we would absolutely try to do that. But my thoughts were, after we have that conversation, could we try and find a way to have another conversation with anybody who's interested to see how we can engage more people in getting involved in that work? And one of the restrictions, which is an absolute silly one, for the meeting that's taking place next week, is we're limited on the meeting room size. And so that's a problem that we've got. So I want to find another way to get people involved.
Yeah, it sounds like that's quite a technical meeting as well, isn't it? So it's just sort of some of the technicalities need to be worked through between the statutory partners first, and then you can open it up a bit further.
And there is something about the statutory partners kind of sorting out their own processes for things like levies and others, and then there's the more developing what the art of the possible might be. So it's trying to separate the 2.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you. Sam, do you want to come in?
So I just want to add to that, because our group was the group that focused on apprenticeships and placements. And, you know, Polly described the thinking around the task and finish group bid, as Una has just described. But one of the discussions we had was possibly about having linked bids to that bid, because to make it manageable, both to develop them and deliver them, but also, you know, there is a maximum of 450,000. So I think it sounds like apprenticeships and is you know, it's a big and it's a popular topic, and I think rather than trying to fit everything into one massive bid, we probably need to think about linked bids to that. And so, for example, we were discussing an option around primary care apprenticeship. So like, I think it was largely around administrative and technical support in primary care, but linked to, and there may be other sectors or there may be other dimensions, and perhaps we need to think a little bit about that type of structure.
Yeah,
that's really helpful, and I think one of the things that we've also talked about is that, particularly if you're a statutory organisation on this call, just thinking about, again, your delivery partners and what you're delivering. If you're not entirely clear about the precise partner you might want to work with, you can put in a sort of a provisional sum in there that you know that you'd go out to get further support for at a later date. So, for example, if you knew that you wanted help, particularly with sort of detailed community engagement with relationship to an apprenticeships bid, you could put a nominal sum aside and then engage with the voluntary sector after the overall bid had been successful to get your partners then. Just otherwise, I think there'll just be a bit of a sprint to the finish line. So I think we're keen to be flexible with the bids. If you haven't identified who all of the delivery partners are, but you want to do that at a later stage, and just put that into the application. We had that last time too for some funds. Okay. So we're just going to go now to any sort of final questions or any final thoughts that the team want to give as well. Una, Sam, Larissa, Rachel, anything final you want to say before we go into final questions?
I was just said in the meeting that we've just come from, is there a simple way for people as they're starting to think of their bids that we can just, I don't know, come up with a list of names, and Una's thinking of apprenticeships, just send that round to everybody so that they can know where to go? Is there a simple way of doing that quite quickly? It's a question, I don't have a solution for it, but
so between Chloe and I will work it out.
Okay, I knew you would.
We'll have the attendance list from today.
Yeah.
You could just, I think the thing to say is, for those of you that are left on the call, and I'll put it in the chat back out to everyone, if you don't want to be included in the sharing of your details, please let us know. Otherwise we will share email addresses, and then also just put into the chat now if there's anything in particular you want to get involved on. I'll have a sophisticated way of doing it, but for the moment that's my basic way.
Thank you.
I'll get back to you. Thank you. So just opening up to any final. Oh, Larissa.
I think Larissa wanted to come in. Yeah.
Go on, Larissa.
I've got a sticky mute button today. I'm really sorry. I was going to say that the making South West London a great place to work is such a broad area. I think it's probably fair to say that probably encapsulates probably all of them, doesn't it? Ultimately, whatever you're looking at. So it just speaks to Una's point, really. How do we cleverly connect those other areas that people are looking at so that it doesn't clash or doesn't jar with other pieces of work others are looking at, potentially under that umbrella of making it a great place to work? And how do we connect people so that their thinking is a little bit more seamless?
Yes, and we know that there is collaboration technology. So in the NHS, we have something that's probably underused called the Futures platform, whereby all different NHS organisations can collaborate. So I'll have a little think and maybe hijack someone from IT when I get into the office later on to see what we can do. Just conscious we've got lots of different agencies on here, and sometimes the technology isn't great at sharing across organisations. No. That's part of the problem.
And I think on that sharing point, we had a great conversation about provider versus system, and really thinking about how do we share the learning, because money's a finite part, it can't cover everything, but how do we share that learning so that we're not duplicating, replicating effort in a way that we move away from that we're different, we're special, to how can we take that learning and adapt it to our organisation, adapt it to our place. So really, we had a really good conversation reinforcing that need, really. So yeah, we need to probably try and capture that within this somehow as well.
We do. Food for thought. I could lock myself in a room and do some thinking, I think. Lots of thinking in that sentence. So just open up to any final questions. It can be about anything that we've covered today, or it can be around, I'm even happy to take questions about the Health and Equalities Fund if we need to, but any of it. So I'll just pause. Oh, yes, I've got a hand. Eleanor.
Hi, Eleanor Merrick at Roehampton University. It's not a question, but I just thought it might be useful to know in terms of apprenticeships, which I appreciate a lot. Here we'll be talking about a wide range of the levels from sort of level 2, level 3, 4 and so on. There is at the moment also an open call from the Office for Students around level 6 apprenticeships and acceleration of those, and as a university we will be putting in a bid for that, and we will be wanting to focus around health as part of that, amongst other areas of our portfolio. So I appreciate that's only talking about level 6, and that's not necessarily going to cover a lot of what we're doing here, but in terms of any conversation around that, or obviously any other apprenticeships, you know, more than happy to collaborate and to get in touch with people. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Eleanor. Because yeah, that's a good opportunity for others to, they've heard you speak now, to get involved. Can't see any more hands up at the moment. Oh yes, Sandy.
Yes, I just wanted to add to what Una said about our group. One of the things we were looking at is projects that are already started and how we might want to build on them. So to look at, you know, other successful bids previously that were in the inequalities space that might then benefit from some workforce to actually build on, to look at, because with such short time, it's almost like looking at a scaffolding and how we might want to scale it up, and to look at, because there's going to be workforce in there for sure in all of those areas, but it's just looking at what we've got already in place and actually finding out, I would suggest, locally, and then think what might have some more legs to go across South West London.
Thank you, Sandy. That's really useful. Yeah, I mean, scaling up, it's all about getting that scale in this work.
So you've got some small pilots you can build on. Yeah.
If there's no further questions, I will give you all back a whole 14 minutes back to your days. We could do a lot in 14 minutes, can't we? So thank you very much for your time and energy and enthusiasm today. It's been really very much appreciated. And thank you to Una and Sam and Rachel and Chloe, Justin and Larissa in talking us through that workforce priority. I certainly learned a lot today, more than I probably should have done. I should have known it already, but I didn't. So thank you for bringing it to life. And we'll be in contact around some form of collaboration technology. Can't make big promises yet, but in a simple way, we'll at least share details with each other. Thanks again, and do check out the website for the further sessions. I know a number of you are looking to attend the children, young people and the mental health ones, which are coming up this Friday and then next week for CYP. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.